Nope, we're recording.
All right, here we are. Hey, welcome, Cohesive Leaders. This is the Cohesive Leaders podcast, and I'm Dr. Troy.
I'm Ben-Jamin Toy.
And we love to bring guests on who are going to share some personal experience they have. And we're going to let them talk a little bit about it, and then they're going to share some of like what it cost them,
what they learned from it, and what they how they vowed not to do that one again.
Yeah, really, because we want to make sure that one only. This is a one-take recording, so if you hear any mistakes, we just keep going because it's a That's right. That's what it is. So now, welcome to our show, John Knowlton. Welcome, John.
Well, hey guys, I'm so glad to be here, and I've made lots of mistakes, so we should have a good conversation.
Yeah, this was a first for us, so
Yep.
it's kind of working through it, and certainly what I could tell you it cost was a little bit of gray hair. And if you have a chance to see me on the video, you would know that I have a lot of that.
It added more, or it pulled them out.
I don't know. At my stage, I'm losing more than I'm gaining, so I think it's gone. So
yeah.
But anyway,
right. John, hey, we want to have our leaders, listeners, one and the same, get to know you. So we'd love to learn something about you that is not on your resume or LinkedIn profile or about us on a website. Tell us something about John.
Well, I haven't had a ticket since I was age 19, and so that's 37 years ago, but I do make a lot of mistakes even when I'm driving. And so recently I was on a call, so I'm hands-free, so it was legal, but just as I entered a round, someone asked me a question that I was really interested in and wanted to give good feedback on. And so 5 seconds later, I noticed I was heading the wrong way on a one-way street, and there's a bunch of headlights coming right at me.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, now that's pretty.
So distracted driving is what we learned about that.
I don't think I'd put that on my resume either. So it's a good thing
it's not on the resume.
But that is impressive. No ticket since 19.
Since age 19, right?
Wow,
and
wow.
Mostly that's favor of God on me, I think. But the what I've learned from this experience is we can only think about one thing at a time. And I was trying to think about this. It was a business deal. We were talking about doing an acquisition, and that's right in my wheelhouse. And I was excited. The person I was talking to, but my brain should have been on driving and not on closing a deal. And so, go ahead.
And what you've done just there is you have actually busted the myth that there is such a thing as multitasking. There is no such thing as multitasking. There are having multiple files opened at the same time, but there is no multitasking. Yeah. So, okay. I will say that breathing, talking.
Those are subconscious.
Yes.
It's anything that's conscious.
Yep. That's right. So
that's what the autonomous system, right? It runs itself. When we're asleep, we're breathing. So
we're not thinking about it.
Yeah. All right. So that's good. So it's kind of like this is what we call connections before content. And this is like a great question to use like before in a cocktail party when people come up to you and say, hey, what do you do? And I like to say, I'll answer that question, but first tell me something about you that's not on your resume. I just think it's so great because we can then relate to you as a person more so than worrying about, some job that you have. And that really transitions well into what we are going to ask you next. And that is, we separate role and identity. So we're going to talk to you about your identity. And these are descriptive words that talk about you, not your role, not, oh, I'm the kind of person who does this, or I like to do that. Those are roles that you play. What we're looking for now specifically is what are the characteristics that you have? Are you a compassionate person? Are you an innovative individual? Are you self-starter? Whatever those words are that describe you, that's what we're looking for. What we hope is that those are the words that people will use whether you're in the room or out of the room. So go for it. Tell us what that would be.
I have more ideas than I could ever operationalize. So I'm an idea. I don't know if you've dealt with Patrick Lencioni's Working Geniuses, but there are 6 sort of broad trait patterns, and that's ideation is where I score the highest. And so my poor wife is a lovely person who's tolerant of me and lets me talk about all my ideas and has learned not to believe or act like we're going to actually do all of them. I remember early in our marriage, there's a particular theologian that I really like named N.T. Wright, and he had recently left his role as bishop and was teaching at St. Andrews University, same location as the famous golf course, St. Andrews Golf Course. And I said, wouldn't it be great if we moved to Scotland and I could go study with N.T. Wright? And she just immediately went crazy because we had 4 kids and she's thinking about where am I going to find a dentist for all these kids, right? All of those details. So I know this about myself. I have lots of ideas. Not everybody needs to hear about all of them.
Yeah. Are you an implementer as well as an idea maker?
We do get things done. Yeah. So I staff the areas where I'm deficient, follow through, tenacity, checking all the lists and all that kind of thing. But yeah. We get some stuff done.
So what's a word that your wife would use to describe you?
Interesting. She just left, so we can't ask her. But I think that she would say that I'm a caring person who gets pretty intense sometimes. The colloquial way she says it is, "You're a lot, John."
Okay, got it. Good.
But not too much.
But not too much.
She's been around for 25 years, so
it's good.
It's workable.
Yeah, so she's really been breaking you in.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know that another stand it. So
well, I'm actually going to tie into the idea of the ideas a lot. I realized, I don't know, 5 years into my marriage, that I talk a lot of the ideas. And normally I'm an internal processor, but hey, now I've got somebody else. Let me just talk what I'm thinking. And it wasn't until years into it that I realized she thought I was serious about most of these things, but I was never going to actually try to implement them because I flush them all in my head. I'm just talking out loud to have that conversation. But it actually added stress to her to be able to actually think that I was going to do all these things, the crazy ideas and whatnot. So
yeah, and for me, it's kind of like I'm the problem solver. So I get into situations, and when I listen to my wife talk about something, I'm in problem solving mode. I'm going like, oh, okay, well, we should probably do this or do that. And I had to eventually learn that there are times when she just wants me to listen. Like she didn't really want me to solve the problem. She just wanted me to listen. So I've really learned to ask more qualifying questions like, honey, what would you like me to do with this information right now? And, and so I'm double your number of years. So we've spent 50 years together from the first day we met, and we will celebrate our 50th wedding anniversary in 2 years. So
congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah. So crazy, but that's how it goes. All right. So now what are some of the roles that you play?
Well, I'm a dad, I'm a husband. And in terms of business, I've built a pretty good sized business that I sold to a partner group in 2020. And for the last 4 years, I've been doing something called C12. C12 is peer for Christians.
Right. So John is cutting out a little bit on our audio, but he talked about C12. And fortunately, Ben and I know about C12. Yep. So it is a Christian organization that brings individuals together to talk about their business and, really make sure that they have figured out a way to infuse God into their organization. So John, anytime you go out, we're just going to continue the conversation. Then you come back in, buddy, pick it up wherever we left off.
Oh, thank you so much. So you described C12 quite well there. It's peer advisory group. And in addition to the day-long business retreats, I also do some coaching of the leaders as well. In addition to that, my son, who's 20, is running a general contracting business. And so I was just on a staff meeting with him, running his staff meeting for him. So I'm helping in all the ways that I can, running a construction company. I was just doing framing takeoffs where I was figuring out how many 2x4s and 2x6s do we need for this remodeling project. And so I'm trying to be a helpful person as I age gracefully.
Yeah, I love that.
Are you going to YouTube to learn all these numbers and calculations, or do you have some construction in your background?
Yeah, I when I was in my 8 years of college and graduate school, I did that kind of work. And have dabbled. I've built a garage and I built an addition and things like that. So enough that YouTube can be helpful to me.
Yeah.
Yes, good. Enough, enough information to be dangerous. That's
Right.
what I always like to say.
Yeah.
Like, honey, should we hire somebody who knows what they're doing, or do you want the danger, Will Robinson with me? So typically we hire somebody who can
I just stay in a lot of Holiday Inn Expresses.
Yeah.
Good for you. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so this is now a great opportunity to segue to talk about your experience. So we know that you have something personal that applies to you as leadership. We know you're an extremely successful businessman. You already talked about how you built that business, and there, certainly will be some individuals who may want to reach out and talk more about that. But for now, what we really want to do is help individuals who are listening to our show, mentoring through mishaps or mistakes. So what is the experience that you are going to share with us today?
Yeah. So in 2014, my partner and I were managing a relatively small wealth management business. We managed $125 million of client assets. We set a goal of being at $1 billion. And so that was 8 times bigger. And we didn't really know what we were doing, but we set the goal. And so we worked at it for a year and came back and we realized we really had not made a lot of progress or gotten much traction on our goal of 8xing our business. And so I said, gosh, I'm the leader of the organization. The responsibility is all mine. I need to figure out what's going on. And so I put myself through a grueling 2-week time study. And so the time study is essentially where you track everything you do. And I chose 15-minute increments. And so I had over 400 data points on what did I do at work for 2 weeks. If you don't have to do this, don't do it. It's really a pain in the neck. And this is before we had AI available. And so I had to compile all these things and sort of sort them into what I discovered was 4 major buckets of activities that I was doing. And back in 2014, we had recognized that our primary lever to grow that business that much was through mergers and acquisitions. And so as I'm doing my time study and analysis, I realized, well, I had client service, I had run the business, I had maybe investment management, and then M&A, mergers and acquisitions activities. So 4 big buckets. And as you can probably guess, our most important thing, mergers and acquisitions, was getting the least amount of my time and energy. So no huge surprise, but when you don't put effort towards your most important objective, you're less likely to succeed. And so we discovered that was a problem. And so it's the real problem, if I was to boil all that down, was I had set a goal without changing my behavior. Set a goal, not make any differences in how I organize my time. Where did I spend my money? So what are the resources that you have? Time and money are the main ones. And those allow you to, processes and get new tools and hire people and all those kinds of things. And so that was the issue. Set a goal, but don't change anything. Not likely to meet the goal.
Right. Okay. And that is really great advice for people when they're thinking through things like what you discovered was something about that process that really is important, and that is these behaviors. And we talk a lot about behaviors because behaviors will drive your values and drives the activities that you do. And also, I think, something else that came to mind to me as you were discussing this is systems. So you're familiar, I'm assuming, with Atomic Habits, things from James Clear.
James Clear, right? Of course, yeah.
I've kind of gone through a friend of mine who I'll give a shout out, Ryan Cass, was really instrumental in helping me understand like systems are so important to what we do. It's not just those actions, but it's the systems that help us. And the one that you spoke about was journaling. Journaling, and doesn't always have to be I'm giving all of my thoughts and life away, and how I feel. Journaling can also be a time study where you're indicating bullet points of information. So great that you use that system, because that system helped you figure out, oh my gosh, these are things that I need to change.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And this journal, if you will, looked like an Excel spreadsheet because I was just, putting little bits of data into cells. But yeah, it was a form of journaling. It's great insight.
And I would add in our recent book, Becoming a Cohesive Leader, we took our goal setting thing from the Love Code, book formerly called Beyond Willpower, talking about though long-term thing being a desire, a goal that is something you do in a daily basis. But the main difference is for it to be something you're going after, it has to be set in truth and in love. Like you have to actually believe it internally. But the truth is you have to be doing the things that can get you there. And so that's why it's not going to happen if you don't internally. It's not jiving with you because you're not doing the things to actually get that outcome. And so often we think we can just set it out there and do exactly what you just did. Oh, I'm just going to get it because it's out there. But you have to change those systems. And Ryan and then James Clear always say you fall to the level of your systems, right? Not even fall to your habits. You fall to the systems that you've in place because that's where those become to tie into the very beginning, those become the autonomous things. Those are the subconscious things. If you started doing squats while you're brushing your teeth, like he talks about in the book, which I have done, you start brushing your teeth and like, why does this feel so weird? Oh, because I normally am doing this while I'm doing that. So
that's awesome. Yeah.
And just for listeners, the book is called The Love Code, and it was written by Alexander Lloyd, Lloyd.
Yeah.
All right. So now we've talked about your O experience. You identified what it was. What did it cost you?
Well, it cost us a year. So I guess we could in terms of dollars as well, but it literally cost us a year of not making progress, and it delayed the growth of our business, the number of people that we could have served, the opportunities for succession or exit that we could have afforded to other business leaders who we could ultimately and allow them to get into their desired retirement. So there's just huge ramifications, right? I mean, there potentially are scores or hundreds of people impacted because we didn't make progress on noble goal that we had set.
How about for you personally? What did it cost you?
Frustration, embarrassment. I tell people about my goals, and when I'm the type of person who likes to meet these goals. And so it was personally embarrassing to the rest of my staff and my partner. As the leader, I expected myself, and I think they expected me to such a way that we would make progress at least towards our goal. And so that sense of inadequacy almost that I may be overstating it a bit, but there's a sense of, gosh, I did not lead well here.
And how did you deal with that? Like, what were the things that you did to overcome it?
The feelings or the actual?
Your feelings of, if you're feeling inadequate, it obviously is going to impact your self-confidence, but you seem like a very self-confident person. So how did you manage that? How did you navigate that?
Yeah, for me, having a negative feeling makes me want to do something so I don't have it again. So I know there are some people who, they have a negative experience, then they don't feel good about themselves, then they're less likely to take the right action. But we can actually, I think, turn that into a virtuous cycle and say, okay, I want to do the positive thing so that the experience, the feeling next time around is different. And so it did prompt me to take more affirmative action that did help us make progress towards the goal. So I'm happy to move into the problem solving segment if you like, or we can talk about.
No, I want to stay here for a minute, because I think what's helpful is to have people know, how did you, like, what were some of the things that you said that was able to address it? I mean, if you felt that you had let people down, then maybe that wasn't just your own feeling. Like, there were people around you who were thinking like, yeah, John let us down.
My bonus is attached to this, and we didn't get it.
And we
didn't
get it. Yeah. So how did you then take accountability for that? Like, what were some of the conversations or some of the actions that you had for that?
Well, certainly I explained to everybody about the time study. So because we didn't hit goal and didn't make progress towards it, really. I mean, it was going to be a multi-year goal, but we didn't make significant progress. Or I'm doing a study on myself, analyze, to try to find out what did I do wrong, or what can we get some information about, what could I do differently. So I made that known to everybody that I was doing it. And
right. And so that time study,
I shared the results as well, objective. And I didn't put enough effort toward it. So took responsibility and shared the results.
Was that in group sessions? Was it in emails? Like, what kind of team did you have there? Or was this to your client? Like, because your clients wouldn't have mattered. They weren't probably in tune to that because you have their money, right? So This was your team. So how big of a team did you have? And were these conversations in person, via video things, emails? How did you convey this new understanding?
Yeah, at that time the team was probably 8 people. And so in a Monday morning staff meeting was where I communicate about these. So we had goals that we would track, against about growth. And it was obvious to everybody on a weekly basis, well, it's not happening. But certainly I shared the time study and the result, my sense of responsibility in that setting.
And what were some of your thoughts to let it go for a whole year? Like
That's a good question. Yeah.
Because what happens, time gets away from you.
Yeah.
But it went a whole year before you finally put in action. So how did that happen? How did that whole year go?
Well, I think that the year, there is some logic to the yearly cycle, because we did yearly planning, yearly strategic planning, and then you break down the annual goals into weekly goals and track that way. So when we came around to the planning cycle again in the fall of the following year, that's when it was super clear to everyone, hey, whatever you did didn't work. Yeah. So it's time to reassess. So, yeah. I mean, that was why it was a year. But yeah, I mean,
and I love the time study idea. How did you think of time study?
Gosh, I don't know where I got the idea from. This is 11 or 12 years ago now. So, okay. So I can't remember the source of it, but I realized at some level that my attention was the number one limiting factor. Just like I can't drive and think about deals. I can only think about one thing at a time. And so I realized that was the important quantity to measure.
So of your 8-person team, how many involved their duties were M&As too? Or was it something only you touched?
Yes, you've just discovered the problem, that we didn't staff it. So it was our goal and my responsibility, but I didn't give up any of my other responsibilities. So I was already full-time doing everything except mergers and acquisitions work, and just set the goal, but didn't change my focus allocation or didn't change anybody else's role or responsibilities. So that was a very insightful question.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, in addition, then, did anybody else's roles change to help you with M&As? Did you bring somebody on just for that? So let's get into the fix it. Like, how'd you solve it?
Yeah. So remember there were 4 broad buckets of activities or tasks: client service, running the business, investment management, M&A. So my partner and I, with this information from the time study and our recommitment to the goal, decided to make 2 hires. So we increased the team by 25%. So it's a substantial investment, right, at that time. And so we hired a servicing financial advisor. So someone to take on some of that client service responsibility, and segmented my primary relationships into more valuable and less complex cases, whatever the case might be, and assigned this new advisor the responsibility to care for maybe half of my meetings, client meetings, something like that. And then we also hired someone whose sole responsibility was administrative tasks relating to mergers and acquisitions. And so now I've hired this person, I've got to keep her busy. I've got to find a full job's worth of M&A activity for her to do, which I had lots of things that we should have been doing, but I just didn't have time allocated. So any case, so we freed up a bunch of my time with the servicing advisor, and then staffed my weaknesses of administrative follow-up with somebody who is strong in that area. And so that's the broad scheme, if you will. I'm happy to more details on that and give you guys space for questions. So,
well, I think that what I gathered from you from the very beginning, being that you're an idea guy, how comfortable are you with detail?
Well, I shared that I was doing framing takeoffs from blueprints for my son, which is very meticulous. How long is the wall? How many jack studs and king studs and all this kind of stuff. So I can do, but it saps energy.
Yes,
Working frustration.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's not your, like, you are the idea guy, so it's like generating the ideas. So if you look at it's really understanding who you are as a person and not having to apologize for the fact that, yes, I can do details, but I don't like the details. For me, like, I know numbers, but I don't want to do numbers, but I will do them if I have to, and I can be precise and particular. But no, I'm a creative sort of guy. I want to talk about vision and future and strategic initiatives that move organizations forward, and create processes that allow, or systems that will allow us to gather that detail and that data and have the right people along the way. So,
but Dr. Troy, one of the things that I've discovered is, while I get tired and fatigued quickly when I'm doing real detailed tasks, if they're novel, if they're new, then I can do them. But if I had to do it a third time, oh my gosh.
Once the fun wears off.
Oh yeah, the fun is gone. Yeah. So
yeah. So I haven't done a framing takeoff in years and years. And so, okay, cool. This was novel. It's new. I'm learning again. Oh yeah, 16-inch centers. Think about the window openings, the headers. Okay, cool. That's fun. But if I had to do that every week, oh my gosh, that'd be horrible.
I think that's a great insight into, again, knowing thyself, right? When you have the self-assessment, when you know what gives you the energy. So Patrick Lezione's work on Working Genius is incredible. The driving forces within TTI's DISC assessment that we use as well is incredible, because you know that there's things you have to do, but there's also you can actually position yourself best if you understand that other people need to do it. I have 3 assistants. 2 of them have tenacity as a working genius, but I also am not ROI focused. So I like to do a project, and just saying we did it is enough for me. Getting money from it or whatever is not a motivating factor for me. Wow. I love the idea of creating something and moving on. And that's where when we work on things, it changes the game. So you have to know your team. You have to know your people. So I actually love, what do you think? How do you think that would apply to an emerging leader? So if we have listeners that are early 20s, 30s, big projects, maybe they feel like they're overwhelmed, they got too much on their plate. How do you take what you've learned through this big project and break it down to somebody that's in their first job 3 years in, trying to get a promotion and they haven't got one yet?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting spot to be in, because the entry level positions tend to have less autonomy over what they do. I love this book by Daniel Pink called Drive. And he talks about job satisfaction being linked to having some freedom over time, team, and task. In other words, time is when do you do your work? Team is who do you do it with? And task is what are you doing? When you're, in that type entry level type position, I think you just got to muscle through and try to share to your direct report where you think you have the innate strengths and whatnot. But I would ask for feedback about it. Hey, what do you see, boss? This is how I feel, but I love your insight. You've got 20 years of experience. What do you see? And then if you can have those kinds of conversations with your supervisor about what are you doing now and what are you best at, that can actually help them position you with the right tasks, with the right type of activities to really shine and then get promoted. Now, not every organization rewards bosses who promote, but I think the healthy ones do. I have on my CV people that I got promoted, so I personally think that's a really awesome thing to get people more into their area of strengths and their sweet spot.
Yeah, I'm very much a proponent of asking those open-ended, non-leading questions. We incorporate that. Some of my teachings and things incorporate that into the coaching and the trainings and stuff that we do. But I think that's it. Asking that open-ended question, like, "Hey, what do you see? What is your experience?" And it's not asking them in a way that makes them feel like they have to do it or that they're doing the project, but that you're gaining insight, that you're asking for help. Mistakes that typically are made by individuals in leadership is, number one, they think they have to do everything. Number two, they think they have to know everything. And the third one is, yes, I can do multiple things at the same time. So if we can really level set that conversation to give people permission to ask questions so that they can gain the insight to move forward. No, there is nothing wrong. There is not a sign of weakness when you ask for a question. The sign of weakness is thinking you know the answer and doing it wrong. That's
Right.
the weakness, not asking the question.
Yeah, I love
Asking
it.
question removes ambiguity, and ambiguity kills production. It removes and kills a comprehension, like we've talked about in the past. So questions for understanding, not being flippant and, well, why? Well, why? But truly understanding what are the reasons for doing something or whatever is very important.
Yeah. Well, and I love the title of the show is Cohesive Leaders. Cohesive sticks together, right? And so if we're unclear about what our strengths are or what does our team think about us, that ambiguity also just sucks up all kinds of mental and psychological energy, right? Where we're worried about what are people thinking and how am I doing and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, questions are super powerful. I love it.
And so our cohesive leaders subscribe to three primary elements, strategic elements. The first is that they focus on belonging with the element of inclusion, making sure that they understand that inclusion brings belonging full circle. That when people feel included, not only themselves, but they're also including others around them, that's a good thing. Having value is meaningful work, knowing what their purpose is, and then being able to celebrate their passion. And then lastly is commitment, their mutual commitment that they make toward those desired outcomes. And it typically happens, we see this in business through collaboration, where individuals have to agree that they need each other and they're going to trust that people will tell the truth and do their job. Yeah. That is how, if individuals can subscribe to those strategic elements, and they create the cohesion phenomenon, which allows them to then morph into that cohesive leader. So thanks for bringing that up and giving us a chance to just chat about that.
I love it. It sounds like a great strategy, guys. Yeah.
So John, we'd like to let our listeners know, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, sure thing. One of the best ways is to go to our website, thinkingforsuccess.com. And Thinking for Success is also the title of a book that's coming out, and it's designed for leaders to use with their teams. It's 52 stories that upgrade our thinking to boost productivity, problem solving, and relationships. And I wrote this book out of desperation because I was not leading well. I was trying to tell people what to do or micromanage them or just give a principle and expect that they would implement that perfectly. And over decades realized that people are much more open to information in story form than they were in abstract principle or dictate from above. And so it's a set of stories that you can use to help you and your team process a concept or an idea together. And then there's a one line takeaway that you can integrate into your life and into your thinking. So
great. And that's Thinking for
Success.
Thinking for Success, and that's for FOR.
Yes, that's right. Yep.
Okay, good. Just make sure when people are listening that make
Yeah.
sure you don't apply something
Hopefully
else.
have the other domain.
Yeah. All right. So here's a fun question we always like to ask is, what question did you think we were going to ask that we didn't?
Yeah. Well, a lot of podcast guests are really interested in quantifying the success level of their guests. And I really appreciated that you focused on behaviors and thinking and not about sort of numerical outcomes. The numerical outcomes, objective results are going to come if you can master how you deal with your own emotions and then how you interact with the people around you.
We have now deemed you a cohesion catalyst because you get the concept. So this is really awesome. This is really great. Really great.
That's beautiful.
Well, John, thanks for being with us. And we close out our episode like we close out all of our cohesion culture programs with this simple mantra. You don't have to know everything.
Just need to be teachable.